So today I'm going to be reacting to the interview given by Angelo, the author of the book White Fragility. She had an interview with Jimmy Fallon where she talked about her new book, which is making a lot of waves all over the world in terms of sales and in terms of conversation as it relates to race relations. So her book is centered around deconstructing white supremacy or racism, or white fragility, as she put it. So let's just dive into it.
Angelo, thank you so much for doing the Tonight Show. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are and everyone wants to talk to you right now, so this means a lot to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you so much for having me.
Your book, White Fragility, why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism, this came out in 2018?
Yes.
And it's been on the bestseller list ever since then.
It has, yes.
And right now it is number one on all the lists I looked at, and it's also from what I read, is sold out everywhere as well.
An unfortunate time for it to be sold out, but yes.
Yeah. Well, here's what I did. I got it on Kindle.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if you saw this. It went viral online. A flight attendant was greeting people on her plane, and some gentleman came on and he was reading your book. It opened up a whole conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because it actually illustrates several really important points about this. I mean, on the one hand, the story was special because a black woman and a white man had engaged conversation. He talked to her with humility and openness, and that was exceptional.
So why is it special? Why is it exceptional? Why is it profound when a white person talks to a black person with humility? I mean, that is just normal human courtesy. That is what every civil interaction should demand. So why should it be something profound when two people of different races are having a civil conversation and it's not breaking down into the usual argument, it's not breaking down into the usual confrontations? I mean, if this is the level that race relations has gotten to, then it is really, really bad, because taking a normal human interaction just because from this it is assumed that when a white person is talking to a black person, then there should be no compassion, there should be no humility. So now that he is doing it with compassion and humility, it becomes something of a story, it becomes something profound, it becomes something exceptional, which I don't think should be the case, or which I actually don't even think is the case.
But let's just notice that would be exceptional. You know, there's a question I often ask when I'm in front of a mixed race group. And I ask the black people in the room a kind of rhetorical question. How often have you attempted to give a white person feedback on their inevitable and often unaware racist assumptions or behaviors and have that go well for you? Never. Number two, response, rarely. And I'll never forget asking a group.
Well, to me, a racism, it's more an act than anything else. So I know there are very new age definitions of what racism is, but I would want to stick with the traditional definitions of racism. And if we are to go by that, it doesn't seem that someone could be racist inevitably, or someone could be racist without they even knowing that their behavior somehow is prejudiced against someone of another race based on the color of your skin and all that. So I don't know what she's getting at with white people being unaware of their own racism, white people being unaware of their own inevitable racism. But let's just keep watching.
Okay, so what if you could just give us feedback on our inevitable and often unaware racist assumptions and behaviors?
Now she says it again. Now, I think maybe she herself has some racist tendencies. Maybe she has issues with black people or people of other races. Maybe she cannot communicate with people of other races very well, and then she is projecting our own racism, our own prejudice on other white people. It's a very common human behavior where some people dream up the devil and wear them your face. So it may just be that she herself is a racist person, or she herself has these racist tendencies, these latent racist tendencies, and she comes off with the assumption that every other white person is just like her.
Behaviors. And I'll never forget this black man raising his hand and saying it would be revolutionary. And just take that in. I just want all the white people to just take that in. Revolutionary, that we would receive the feedback with grace, reflect, and seek to change our behavior. That's how difficult we are.
Wow.
That's how big a-holes.
Wow. And Jimmy is agreeing with her as though she's saying something so profound, something that no one has ever thought about before. And the way in which she is talking to white people in such a condescending manner that, okay, you are not aware of this, you have to be aware of this. Well, I don't understand. So let's keep watching the video and see where it goes.
We are.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that's not a very tall order. Really? That's a revolution? But we can't get there from the current paradigm that says only mean people who want to hurt others based on race ever could do so. So we just have to change what we understand it means to perpetrate racism.
Yeah.
So basically, you want to redefine racism to fit your own narrative of what racism really is. You want to throw away the traditional definitions of racism, which it seems like what a lot of people are doing nowadays. They redefine terms just to make it so broad and all-encompassing that almost everybody is guilty of it. If we're going to go by the new definitions of racism that we keep hearing here and there, then every white person is inevitably racist, whether or not they want to be, whether or not they act. Even without agency, a white person is racist. Even without doing anything, just for the fact that the white person has a white skin, then he is racist or she is racist. Well, he is racist because a lot of the times now white women want to extricate themselves from whatever it is that the white race is being accused of, and they want to put themselves also in the victim category with every other person.
Well, the term white fragility, did you coin that term? Did you come up with that, or is that it?
I did.
What does it mean exactly?
Well, the fragility part is meant to capture how little it takes to cause white people to melt down in defensiveness and umbrage.
I could very easily see this woman having a meltdown, and I think she's talking a lot about herself and projecting it onto other white people.
We make it so miserable for black people to talk to us about what they're experiencing from us that most of the time they just don't. It's not worth it. It tends to get worse, not better. And so in that way, white fragility is quite powerful, and it protects the racial status quo.
Could you help me in a way? I want to ask a question. Like, how does one say, how does a white person say that they're not racist?
Well, white people often say, I'm not racist. I know you have. I have done things in my life I recognize as racist today. I would not do them again.
Now, why would it be required of white people to prove that they are not racist? I mean, if someone is racist, it is almost always evident from the get-go that they are racist. For a white person to give that caveat that I am not racist, I am not this, I am not that, it just seems, I don't know, I don't think it's proper, I don't think it's right. I think it's an unusual burden to place on a group of people based on their race, where they have to go around with a disclaimer all the time that they are not racist. And more often than not, the people who say they are not racist are actually the most racist of people.
They were neither intentional or even conscious, and yet they wounded other people nonetheless. I think white people should remove that phrase from their vocabulary. I'm not racist. It's not, trust me, it's not convincing to black people. We define racism as individual, intentional acts of meanness, then I would agree with you that most white people are not racist. But when I'm talking about the racism that I have, the racism that you have, it's the result of living in a society in which racism is the foundation. We all absorb it. There's no way we could exempt ourselves.
I mean, what do you mean by you all absorb it? Like racism is some kind of radiation that white people absorb? That you are living, just for the fact that you are living in a society that was built on racism, then inevitably all white people are racist? I don't understand that kind of logic, because it isn't true that Western civilization is built only on racism. It was also built on liberty. It was also built on industry. It was also built on so many other things, on entrepreneurship, on hard work. So how do you single just one aspect of what this society is about and then make it the pivot, make it the pillar stone and the defining feature of that civilization? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
From it. And so we need to change our question from if I'm racist, to which most white people will say no, to how have I been shaped by the forces of racism I was born into, and how is it manifesting in my life? It's a really different question. Yeah. But if I ask,
I mean, how am I going to take responsibility for something that exists externally to me? If I am a white person and the system is going to benefit me whether or not I give it permission, how exactly is that going to be my fault? How is that going to be my racism? How is that going to be a racism that I have? If there are structural problems, or if there are structural issues, if there are institutional issues, legal issues that favors white people over black people or people of other races, then those should be dealt in the appropriate quarters. Those should be dealt because they are out of the individual domain. They are now in the domain of legislation, and that is what the legislature, that is what the politicians, that's what the leaders, those what they should be doing. So why should an individual burden himself, carry the burden of guilt for something that there is nothing he could possibly do? Because from her admission, there is nothing a white person could possibly do to change whether or not they are racist, because quote unquote they are beneficiaries of a system that was built on the foundation of racism. Except you want to erode, you want to destroy white civilization or Western civilization as it is. That's the only way you are going to be able to take that away. That's the only way, from her summation, you are going to be able to say that white people are not racist. Because as long as Western civilization stands, and as long as you believe that Western civilization is built on racism, then as long as it exists, then all white people will remain to be racist. But I don't know how exactly that kind of thinking, how is going to be good for anyone, either for the white people or for people of other races.
If, and the answer is no, what further action is required of me to challenge racism? Nothing. I'm not racist. If I ask, how have I been shaped and what is it looking like in my life? Well, that sets me on a lifelong process. And I can just tell you, look around at the society. White people thinking we're not racist is not and has not ended racism. We have to change our paradigm. We can never be complacent.
So where can white people start?
I would say start with asking yourself this question: what does it mean to be white? Most white people can't answer that question. And if I can't hold what it means to be white, I cannot hold what it means not to be white. And I'm going to have no...
Do you know how dangerous what she's saying sounds right now? That white people should try and find their white identity. I think most of the horrors of white supremacy in the 19th century or the earlier 20th century was based off on white people, focusing so much on their white identity. And a lot of progressively they've done away with trying to dissociate themselves from their white identity. But she wants white people to rediscover what it means to be white. I don't see how she thinks that this is going to go very well, or this is going to go in the right direction. I think race should be de-emphasized as much as it can. If white people are being detached or de-emphasized from their race, I think other races should follow suit. Black people should de-emphasize their blackness or their race. Asian people should de-emphasize their race. Race should be a very, very should contribute very, very little to the conversation of human interactions, because if at all you say race is a socially constructed concept, then why should we want to intensify those racial distinctions? Why should white people want to discover what it means to be white, or why should black people keep perpetuating what it means to be black or what it means to be Asian and all that? I think we should all think about what it means to be human rather than what it means to be one race or another.
Critical thinking on this topic, no skills to navigate this uncomfortable conversation, and no emotional capacity to withstand how uncomfortable the conversation is. And that means black people can't be their authentic selves with us. There are consequences to us not being able to answer that question. And if you start there, how has being white shaped my life? And how is that manifesting in my life? That will set you on a lifelong path.
Dr. D'Angelo, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and being on the Tonight Show. I'd love to have you back, and I really appreciate us talking like this. Thank you so much.
I'd love to be back. Thank you.
So that's the video. That's my review of the interview D'Angelo gave with Jimmy Fallon. I have the book White Fragility. I'm going to be reading it because I want to have first-hand information about what she wrote in her book, and I'm going to be doing a series of critique of her book, of the book White Fragility, because I just don't want to take the reviews that I've had about the book. I want to get first-hand information.